If there's only one thing that you take away from this video, you got to remember to... What's going on, everybody? In this video, I want to share with you how I built a brand new desk for my boys who are starting a brand new school year. Over the summer, they've gotten taller, and now my kindergartner is now in first grade, so he's going to do some schoolwork as well. So they both need to fit on the same table. So not only am I going to make a taller desk than what they currently have, I'm also going to make it longer. So let me show you the process that I took to build that. I don't make a lot of furniture pieces, so I would still consider myself a beginner. So I thought I'd share my beginner pain points or some beginner watch outs, some heads up moments that maybe other videos aren't sharing. There are a lot of great videos out there that show you how to build a table, build a desk that I'm even watching myself. But I'm coming from a beginner's perspective myself, and so I like to share some of the watch out or pain points that I found during this build. So to start off this build was made using gifted wood from a contractor friend. He had a bunch of 2x6 and tongue and groove material that he didn't use on a job site and was kind enough to give it to me. So for the tabletop, I used this tongue and groove material. I used my table saw to remove the tongue and groove sides, but these pieces were not straight at all and the edges did not match at all, as you can see. So I pulled out the joiner and just kept going until the edges matched perfectly. I actually wondered if using a jig instead would have been faster because I felt like it was a long process. Hey guys, I just want to jump in here real quick and say, first and foremost, I don't have the video of me attaching my tabletop together. I ran out of storage space on my phone and I wasn't able to get the full content there on that process. I record all my videos on my phone right now. That's just where I'm at in this YouTube journey. Since I am still a fairly brand new YouTuber, I don't have all the gear, I don't have a dedicated camera, and so I'm recording on my phone for the moment, which is fine. Everything works fine, but I still sometimes run into these issues where I don't have storage on my phone to be able to record certain things of a build. And so I just want to apologize, guys. I should have prepared better. With that being said, I do have a Patreon account and I'll link that below in the description. And if you like the content and if you feel like you're getting some value out of it, please consider on donating. Please consider becoming a subscriber on the Patreon account. I would appreciate that. There are some things that I would like to purchase to be able to invest back into the channel, such as a dedicated camera. But again, like I said, I'm not complaining. That's just something that I have to work through at this time. All right, guys, so let's just jump right back into the video. What I can show you is a quick explanation of the process I take. I drill pocket holes into the tabletop boards and then use a face clamp to stabilize the boards and keep them flat. I like to do the ends first before driving in the center screws. Once I had the tabletop put together, I sanded it. I ended up putting the table together the first time around and then adding a rounded edge using my Bauer router and a roundover bit. Even here I started noticing that the table was a bit wobbly, but I pursued. Once everything was sanded, I took everything apart and painted the table and all its pieces. My wife wanted a whitewashed white, so to achieve this desired look, I added 1 part white paint and 1 part water and mixed. You then paint your table and let it sit for about a minute or so, and then wipe away the paint, leaving you with this whitewashed effect. After the paint had dried, I added 2 coats of water-based polyurethane and I sanded between the 2 coats using a 220 sanding block. So here's the finished table the first time around, and it was just too wobbly for my liking. So let's talk about what went wrong and how I fixed it. First, there wasn't anything wrong with the legs themselves. Where it went wrong was by not attaching the apron to the legs, as you can see here. To fix this issue, I ended up redoing the legs. I could have easily used the 2x3s that I had made, but I wanted to make the legs more stable, more sturdy, so I ended up using 2x6s. To do this, I removed the rough edges and then cut them to size to be about 5.5 inches wide. I also used the 2x6 material to make the apron pieces, and those were cut down to be 2x2s. Once I had all my pieces cut, I gave everything a sanding. To figure out the location where I would attach the apron, I simply edged everything up and marked the location of the apron, and also marked where the pocket holes will go on the legs. I repeated this process for both sides of the apron and for all 4 legs. Once everything was marked, I made my pocket holes. When it came to attaching the legs, it was harder to attach while it was on my workbench. I should have just attached them while on the floor. I did have some splitting of the wood on this first leg, so to fix that, I added glue on the leg and then attached the apron. Once the legs were attached, I added glue into the split and used a clamp to close the split or the gap as much as I could. Once I had the horizontal aprons attached to the legs and they were able to stand on their own, I added the vertical apron by attaching them to the legs with pocket screws. I used my face clamp again to be able to hold everything in place while I attached them. So the first mistake I made when redoing the legs is that I put pocket holes on both sides of the legs. It was actually on just 2 legs, but still I had to fill them in. To be able to fill them in and kind of reduce the look of the holes, I had a 3/8 inch dowel and used it to plug the holes, and then removed the excess with this flat saw. I then painted the legs and apron using the same method as before. I think the tongue and groove boards were poplar because these legs did not paint as nice as the tabletop, and I know for a fact that the legs were pine. The second mistake I made was not taking into account the fact that since my legs were wider than my original legs, when I put the vertical aprons, which were the same size as the original table, the tabletop was about 3/16 too small. My base was larger than my tabletop. So to fix this, I ended up taking my frame or my table frame apart and cutting smaller vertical aprons and attaching those. Once I fixed that, I had to attach the legs to the tabletop. To do this, I tried using a referential method, but I wasn't going to be able to get the table to be exactly centered on the table using this method. So I busted out my calculator and started doing some math. I measured the length and the width of both the desk and the tabletop. I then subtracted the width of the base from the width of the tabletop. If I were to edge up the legs and the apron all the way to one edge of the tabletop, this is the amount of material that is left from the tabletop. I then divided this value by 2 to be able to center the table correctly on the tabletop, since there are essentially 2 sides. I also repeated this process or this calculation for the height as well to be able to get the legs exactly centered. I secured the legs using some clamps and used pocket screws to secure the tabletop. Once everything was secured, I had to test out the table by, of course, laying on it. I like how much more sturdy it is. And if you notice, I did not add another piece of stabilization on the legs. Also, I did not add the cross braces underneath the tabletop that I had originally put on the first table. One thing I did notice is that one leg is about a 1/16 shorter than all the other legs, so there was a slight wobble again to that leg or to that side, but nothing that can't be fixed with some sanding of the other legs or maybe even adding pads underneath. So for me, it's still better than the first time around, but something I can fix off camera. So here is the final product, guys. What do you guys think? Alright guys, so that's the end of this video, and I hope you guys like the content from a beginner's perspective. If you can take anything away from this video, the one thing that I would like for you to remember is that you have to attach your aprons to your legs prior to attaching the tabletop. Thanks guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video.